Welcome to the Blood Angels Commander channel.
David Bain donated £10 via Super Chat. Happy birthday, Mike.
Hello. Hello, brothers. Good evening. Happy birthday, Mike. Good evening, good evening. Hello, guys. Thank you for starting the stream off with a bang, David. 10 bucks on the Super Chat. Much appreciated. Really had a really good stream last night, actually. You guys made it really awesome last night. So, yeah, I'm still buzzing about last night's stream. It was a lot of fun. If you didn't see my Storm Speeder thingy, it's coming along quite nicely. I'm really enjoying painting the Storm Speeder model. Way more than... I mean, I don't see there's any reason not to enjoy it. But, like, I'm just enjoying it so much. Yeah. See if it'll focus on it. Yeah, these Primaris vehicles, they're a lot of fun to do. Hopefully it'll be good on the battlefield. Anyway, good evening, good evening. Yeah, thanks again for a great stream last night, guys, and good evening to everybody, and also welcome to our new members. We got like 18 new members last night. Loads of people were doing gifted subs, so if you are a new member, make sure you join up in our Discord and come and hang out in our members only room. You're more than welcome. You got a couple of years on me, Mike. I turned 39 last week, so, or a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, good evening, everybody. Francesco, Kari, Mike, Gitley's here as well. Good evening. Daniel, Burgosaurus, Jason Cooper, Jason Trump, and who am I missing? Drysu, JT Money. JT Money said, cheers to John and his New York Giants for getting another win. Yeah, the Giants did well again tonight. Just thought I'd throw that out there if you're a Giants fan. It's the best season we've had in about 10 years. So that's good. I can't remember, honestly, can't remember last time Giants were 5-1. And yeah, if you're an Arsenal fan, then, I mean, Man City don't even look strong anymore. This is a good day to be an Arsenal fan, isn't it? Like, you know, Man City can spend $500 million on Haaland, but it doesn't matter. You know, you can't even beat Liverpool. So, yeah. Good dude, good day to be an Arsenal fan. God, the Arsenal game was painful today if you watched that though. Yeah, I think Arsenal had like one shot on goal. Anyway, let's talk about army lists. And yeah, it's the 16th of October. I can't imagine I can't believe it's quite this far through the year already. It's gonna be Christmas before you know it. Andy, hello, good evening. I think Arsenal will probably lose to Liverpool at home, but yeah, I mean, like when Liverpool are at home, we'll probably lose to them. But we beat them away when they were away. Okay, we've got 4 or 5 lists to look at today, maybe actually 6. 1, 2, we get 6. So we're looking at Brew and Biscuit, Inks, Jason Trump, Luke, Michael, and Terence. I think Inks sent me maybe an updated list. Let me just check this real quick because I did see a comment from him. Let me see what his comment was. Please take a look at this one. We were talking last night about boarding actions. Let me just paste this into his thing so that it doesn't get missed. I'll separate it because I'm not sure. Okay. Alright, cool. I think that means I've added this. Good evening, Mike. Alright, let's get into some army lists. And I'm going to submit a list. Where do I do that exactly? You do it over on the community tab. So you would go to YouTube. You would go... I believe they've put this funny thing in now where you can search. You can go at. So you go at Blood Angels Commander. I believe that should find the channel. I guess maybe not. But yeah, anyway, click on Blood Angels Commander here. And then click on Community. And in the latest community post, click comment. Paste your list for Battlescribe. That's how you do it. Okay. Brew and Biscuits is our first list for today. I need to do a Google form. Yeah, I mean, I think I'll probably do one The problem is, Mike, I get so many junk emails. I don't really want to have to create another email address, and I'm worried that I'll miss them if they go into, like, you know, I don't know. I honestly get like 20. I have 2 email addresses, and each one gets about 30 spam emails a day. So I feel like I don't want to add another email address, and I don't want to miss any. I'll figure something out. Okay. So Bruin Biscuits. He's back this time with a Death Company list that he's been playing friendlies with, and he's been finding a lot of success and scoring well with Blade of Sanguinius, Fury of the Lost, Retrieve Nat Mandate, or Relentless Assault, depending on the motion of an opponent. Yeah, and he rarely swaps in Abhor the Witch. When we looked at the spreadsheet that I made, or the flowchart I made a few weeks ago, let me bring that up. Let me think what the hell it would be called. Final flowchart. It's worth noting that if your enemy is running stuff like no prisoners lists or bring it down lists, then those are really solid picks. Like if you look at your enemy list and they have like a lot of tanks or monsters, I suppose, or if they have a lot of infantry, those are some of the highest scoring picks. So at any point you should just consider switching in, bring it down, and take no prisoners. I think they're just really against the right enemies. You know, like not many people mention it here, but it's something to definitely consider. All right, so he's got a Calixus Assassin, which is useful for sniping and messing with Psychers. I mean, the Calixus is good as well because you can't take armor saves against it unless it's invulnerable saves, and sometimes it can gain you a CP or 2, and it can also hold objectives. The thing I like about the Calixus Assassin is you can only hit it with rolls of natural 6s, right? So, like, if you put it on an objective and he's just standing there by himself, you know, if the enemy are going to shoot at him, they can only hit him if they roll 6+. When resolving attacks against this model, the attacking model is treating him having a weapon skill and ballistic skill of 6+. So, he's generally... I mean, that just generally gives him a lot of survivability based on the fact that he has 5 wounds and he has lightning reflexes, which are 4-up invulnerable save. So 6+ for the weapon and ballistic skill make him quite a survivable character. I used to run the Calixus a bit. I quite like it. I think if I have to pick an assassin, I'd probably pick Calixus. It's my favourite, just because I always talk about how I like durable units. I always think that if your unit can survive one more turn and then do damage in a following turn, that's always better than you know, doing a little bit more damage but then dying in the same turn. So I like the Calixus Assassin. I've not seen the Discord DM. I have many right-handed and left-handed power swords and infernal pistols, Mike said. Oh, I haven't checked my DMs, Mike. Okay, yeah, we'll talk about that, I guess, at some point. Hello, Jim. And the Calixus doesn't do much in the end. I mean, he doesn't, and he does. He's an anti-psyker, so he'll kill enemy psychers potentially. He can be survivable. He does have a fight last, which is pretty useful for Blood Angels, right? Like, and it's an aura of fight last. So yeah, I mean, the Calixus Assassin is my favorite. If I had to pick one assassin, it's my favorite. It is definitely the Calixus Assassin. And I mean, if you get line of sight on an enemy psyker and you're willing to pay the 1 CP, you can look out Sir them. You can shoot the Animus at them, which is Assault D3. And if you're within 18 inches of the psyker, it becomes Assault D6. Strength 5 -4 1 damage, which isn't great, but you can pay 1 CP to make it D3. So if you can see an enemy psyker, like a Space Marine psyker, -4 EP, it used to mean they don't get a save. Now it means they'd only get a save on 6. He's not bad. He can shoot an enemy psyker off the table in 1 turn. I've done it before. I think I killed Tigris with him at like 18 inches by paying the 1 CP for Pariah's Gaze. And then if you do kill him, you can instantly play Priority Threat Neutralize and get some command points back, right? The fight lasts. Soul Horror. Use a stratagem at the start of the fight phase, selects a Calixus Assassin. Enemy units within 3 inches of the model cannot be chosen to fight until all other eligible units have done so. So yeah, it's an aura of fight last. I mean, it's 2 CP, it's expensive, but I think the Calixtus Assassin probably pairs pretty nicely with the Blood Angels list. Okay, we've got Astrath with Massive Doom, Mantra, and Canticle. He has taken Soul Warden on Astrath and made him the Warlord. That's a cool choice. We have the Death Company Captain, and the Captain has an Infernal Pistol and a Teeth of Terra and Imperium Sword. I talked about this the other day. I'm not sure Imperium Sword is the greatest pick on a Death Company Captain. I mean, I guess it lets him reroll his charge and gives him +1 attack. But I feel like you would pretty much always just instantly use your Death Vision. So if you're just instantly going to use your Death Vision, do you really need Imperium Sword? I think Imperium Sword's a low value pick on the Death Company Captain. Teeth of Terra is like Strength 5 with +1 to wound anyway, so you're wounding Toughness 4 on 2s. The extra strength from Imperium Sword doesn't help you all that much. I wonder if there's a better choice there, really. We then have a Sanguinary Priest, and he's got Rites of War. Okay, makes sense. Rites of War is a great pickup for a Sanguinary Priest. It lets him... yeah, I mean, it lets him just be a nuisance. The Calixtus doesn't have any melee, sure, but you have to remember he does have life drain, so when you do make melee attacks, saving throws cannot be made unless they're invuln saves. So I guess like if you're fighting anything that doesn't have invuns, you're going to do some damage, right? Because the damage will go straight through, so you'll hit on 2s, you'll wound probably on 4s, I suppose. You maybe do a little bit of damage. I think he's just good at killing Psychers. He's good at killing Psychers, he's survivable, and he's a little bit of a pain because of the Soul Horror, potentially. And if he does ever kill a Psyker, if you ever can see a Psyker, you can shoot them and you don't have to worry about Lookout Sir. Yeah, he's good at killing Psychers. Hello, Danny. Good evening. 3 squads of Incursors here. 3 squads of Death Company. 2 of them are massive. 10 man with 3 Thunderhammers in each. Smaller squad with 4 Thunderhammers. Death Company Dreadnought with a Heavy Flamer and double Heavy Flamer and Blood Talons. I don't think you need to pay for the Blood Talons on the Death Company Dreadnought, honestly. You're paying 10 points for Blood Talons, I think, and in my opinion, they don't add much. Because I think the Blood Talons are 1 AP less, and they're less strength, but you can reroll the wounds. Where the hell is Death Company Dreadnought? I better change this to Blood Angels. Death Company Dreadnought. Blood Talons are going to be Strength 10 -2, 3 damage. Furioso Fist is going to be Strength 12 -3, 3 damage. So it's going to cost you 10 more points for 1 less AP, 2 less strength, but you can reroll the wounds. Right? But with Strength 12 with +1 to wound, you're pretty much wounding on 2s anyway. So I think I'd rather just wound on 2s at -3 than wound on the same 2s at -2, but I can reroll the 1 wound. And that's going to cost me 10 points. I feel like you're like just use the Furioso Fist. Keep it cheap. I don't think the Blood Talons are really worth the 10 points here at all. Some people could argue that, I guess, but I think in most cases you're wounding on 2s anyway. So I'd rather have the extra point of AP, especially into Armor of Contempt meta. I like Imperium Sword on Teeth Captains. There are a bunch of Toughness 5 around. An extra attack / charge reroll never hurts as DTM. I guess. I mean, it's expensive though, right? In that, like... My experience, I've run the Death Company Captain with the Teeth of Terra and Imperium Sword, and what happens is he dives in, because you kind of play him almost like a Smash Captain of old. He dives in, he pops his Death Vision, he has about 10 attacks, he kills a bunch of models, and then he just gets killed right after. So, my concern with playing him that way is there's 2 CP and he's dead very early, so I would slower play him these days. I mean, Teeth of Terra was really good before Armor of Contempt because it killed Marines really, really effectively. I have a feeling the Teeth of Terra was -3, but I honestly don't know what it is now. So it's only -2. So into Marines it's only -1. So and into Sisters or something like that, it's only -1 as well. So it's risky to jump them in. Jim says if the rerolls were in hits, it would help a lot. Yeah, you're right, Jim. I think 100%. Model the Talons and run them as dread companies. Yeah, that's what I have done. Chris says, cheers from Michigan, news to the channel and new to the game as well. Blood Angels enjoying the videos, keep the content great. You're very welcome, Chris. Thanks for tuning in. If you do like the videos that you see, please consider subscribing or join, or hit the like button. 10 Death Company. I never run Death Company these days. Can these guys even combat squad? I feel like they can't. I only run 5 Death Company. One of the reasons I don't like big 10-man squads of Death Company is I don't typically run Astaroth. This list has Astaroth in it. If you don't typically run Astaroth, then the leadership 7 becomes a huge problem, right, for Death Company. If you're going to run a 10-man, because that's kind of their leadership's kind of terrible. Okay, and they can't combat squad, so it's just 2 10-man Death Company. I mean, I don't know if I love that. I mean, I guess if he's going Fury of the Lost, it's fine to run the 4 or 5 Death Company models. You have 1 squad of Eradicators, that's 4 Eradicators, and you also have a Whirlwind. I played a list like this with just this 1 unit of Eradicators on its own. I think my list included a unit of Eradicators and a Land Speeder, which is basically the same points. And my experience with that was I didn't feel like I had enough firepower. I don't know why I didn't feel like I had enough firepower. I guess part of it is the 5-inch move on the Eradicators. You don't want to be, although Eradicators can advance and shoot, you don't want to be advancing them because when you advance them, you give up half their firepower, right? And also you take -1 to hit. So for 180 points, yeah, Danny's saying attack bikes are much better for Eradicators. For 180 points, I'd run this as 3 attack bikes with multi-meltas. Just think they're more versatile. I mean, each bike has more wounds. They also have 12 Stormbolter shots, which I guess is not... It's not nothing. 12 Stormbolter shots, if you've got Chapter Master rerolls on there, is going to typically chip off a wound or 2. So, and later in the game as well, the bikes are just so much better because they get... Is it a 12-inch move on attack bikes? I'm sure it's a 12-inch move. I actually think it's a 14-inch move. I would have to check. Attack bikes... Yeah, so it's a 14-inch move on the attack bikes. So later in the game, when the game starts thinning out a bit and there's more space on the map, that 14 inches is generally really useful, especially for getting in within half range to get those extra D6+2 shots from the multi-meltas, right? Francesco says, I much prefer a Hammer of Baal on a Smash Captain. I mean, if I was going to run a Smash Captain these days, I think I'd probably prefer the Hammer of Baal or a Mastercrafted Thunder Hammer, because doing 4 damage a shot is also pretty nice. I know Sanguinary Guard can't combat squad, but they can obviously be made in little squads of... They're the exception of the rule. Sanguinary Guard can be 4. So having this much Death Company, like he said he was going to do retrieve NAC1 data. I mean, I guess that's fine. You're relying on your incursors to do data mainly, because Death Company obviously can't perform actions. Death Company also can't fall back. Yeah. I just don't love 10-man Death Company. I mean, it's fine, I guess, if you've got them close to Astaroth, because he lets them ignore leadership. But in practice, I think that's hard. Like, you're not going to be able to put 20 Death Company in the same area as Astaroth, because typically how games work is you'll need to spread out across the map, right? Like, you're not going to... So unless you're going to pay 2 CP for an auto pass and morale, I don't like it. Thunderhammer / Hammer of Baal is a terrible pick for Death Company Smash Captain diffusing Fury. Not enough attacks to guarantee unit kills. Okay, yeah, I mean, like, so you're saying take Teeth of Terra So you're killing whole units, so you're getting kills for Fury of the Lost. I mean, I guess, yeah, this list is leading heavily into being a Fury of the Lost list, isn't it? What's interesting though as well, right? Like, I don't know how you deliver the Death Company Dreadnought without paying to put them in strategic reserve. And if you're paying like 1 CP to put a 7 power level unit into strategic reserve, I feel like you should take, because he's got space in the elites here. He could easily add a squad of servitors. He could easily add a squad of voidsmen at arms. They would also be another unit that could do relentless assault. If you took servitors, another unit that can do retrieve nat mandata. If you took either of the above, I think both those would be more interesting. If this was me, I'd probably trim one of these Death Company. So do 2 5s and a 10 if you really love the 10. I might even be tempted to go 5. I might even be tempted to do 4 5s and then like a small squad of Sandguard. I think Sandguard are invaluable. I know that some people are away from Sandguard, but I think that the heroic intervention strat that Sandguard get, like, it wins games all the time, and it messes with opponents all the time, and they always have to be thinking really smartly. A good example of what I've seen in tournaments as well, a lot of the time, right? An excuse like super, like if we do like a super crude drawing, in that, like, let's see if we can draw something. I just need a pencil or a paintbrush. Let's see if we can get like a big paintbrush. We'll draw it in pink. So here's the deployment zones, right, of both armies. Let's say you're deploying against a guy that's got a bunch of flyers, because we keep seeing this, and we've done that on stream. He's got 2 flyers, and they can both go forward, like, this is 60 inches, right? So, like, as a Blood Angels player, you're probably going to line up all your units on the front here, right? Because you need to basically get across this deployment zone as quickly as possible and kill, because we kill stuff in melee, we don't really kill stuff with shooting. So what's really interesting, and what I've done in other games, is position my Sanguinary Guard at the back, sort of tactically. So, like, he wants to fly this flyer over a bunch of units to drop bombs on them, and then the flyer is going to sit here. And then basically you heroic intervene on with the Sanguinary Guard, and you kill the flyer. And I've done that in tournaments. I've done that on stream. You almost want to bunch up your guys on the front lines, and then have the Sanguinary Guard maybe daisy chained around at the back or something. You do something like that. It can be so powerful, and it can make your opponent have either they realize that you've done that and they don't fly over you, and that protects you against a bunch of mortal wounds, or they fly over you and take the risk. With a 6-inch heroic intervention and your models nicely placed, you're probably going to be able to snap that flyer. You might not kill it, but you're going to do enough damage to it so in your turn it's definitely dying, and then you can move on from that. And yeah, so if this was my list, I don't love 2 10-man Death Company. I would do like 4 5s. I would probably expect to have to put, like, the Death Company Dreadnought moves 6 inches. I don't see how you're delivering it across the board, unless yeah, I really don't see how you're unless you're strategic reserving it. Hey Ben, thank you so much for becoming a member, especially company veteran. Really do appreciate it. Experienced players will fly off the board. I mean, if they've got enough movement, DTM, right? Like Tyrannid Harpies, I think they only get to move 45. Maybe some things can move 60, but yeah, I think there's some that won't be able to fly off the board. Francesco says Lamartis is just bad. I don't think he's bad. He's cheap, and he's slightly different in that he gives you reroll charges. You can't do 4x5 Death Company? Of course you can't, Mike. You're right. Okay, so yeah, I mean, that makes it tricky, doesn't it? Unless you're going to do 3 times jump Death Company, and then the 4th unit is Death Company Intercessors, and then you reserve them. Because, yeah, I mean, Death Company Intercessors might be okay if you pay... How many power level are they? 6? So you could do like 5 Death Company Intercessors with a hammer, And then you've still got your like. Well, you would actually have one more Death Company unit there as well, actually. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't run 10-man Death Company. I don't think they're the best choice. I think MSU or minimum, like MSU is better for Marine players right now. I'd love to play a mirror match against an army like this. I mean, the 10-man Death Company will annihilate a lot of things that they hit, but it's something that we don't see. Even Rezio, who was like adamant for a while, right, that you should run 10-man Death Company, has stopped running the 10-man Death Company. I guess if Rezio, you're usually here. Oh, you're in the chat. Rezio, why have you stopped running the 10-man Death Company? Why are you on the 5-man now? Because you were adamant for a while that like you should run 10-man Death Company, right? Highland Phoenix, good evening. Hello, 1814. Hello. Ben says, I've been watching your video since I came back to the game. You've been inspiring. Appreciate that, Ben. Thank you so much. Please click the Discord link in the video description and join in our members-only Discord group. Yeah, okay, so, I mean, in theory, having 5 Death Company units is going to help you score a lot. Having 4 characters maybe gives up a little bit too many points to assassinate, but that could be okay. If you viewed my video about secondaries, you'll know how I feel about Blade of Sanguinius. If we talk about moving from the highest scoring to lowest scoring, Blade of Sanguinius is actually at tournament play. It's like a 50-50 pick if you're going to score well on that, I guess. Zachary, good evening. Ollie B, good evening. You can download that chart. I put it in. There's a link on the community tab if you want to download this to save. I made it so that I could take it to my next event, basically, because I always struggle at events to pick secondaries and always end up picking a shitty one. So next time I'm struggling and I've got like 2, I'm just going to be like, fuck it, just run from, these are the highest scoring, these are the lowest scoring, and I'm just going to do like, what can I possibly do? I always forget about Oath of Moment. And Oath of Moment, they did change it, but it's still very high scoring comparatively to the other ones. So if there's no good pick, I would probably prefer to pick something like Oath of Moment over Blade of Sanguinius, because I think that statistically it's better anyway, but it also feels to me less risky, right? Competitively, many players are building Fury of the Lost lists, and the configuration seems to often include one larger unit of Death Company, something like 7 to 10, says Rezio. Yeah, well, this list includes 2 larger Death Company. And I think you can get away with 1, because the 1 large Death Company can be with Astaroth, which makes them immune to morale, but then your second Death Company is not going to be immune to morale. They're not going to be near Astaroth, because why would you have all your Death Company in one place on the map? So I would change that. And I have a Death Company Dreadnought, and I've been tempted to run it, but 6-inch move combined with there's no nice way of delivering it has really put me off. I don't know when I'll run a Death Company Dreadnought again. It's not something that's really on my radar right now. Okay. You had to redo the chart in PowerPoint because I didn't have it perfect for it. Ollie, if you'd said, I would have sent you the source code for the chart. It's not that. You should have said me. Okay. Right. Inks was here last night on stream and gave like 10 gifted subs. So some people that got gifted sub last night is from Inks. So let's check out his list. The formatting in this list looks horrible, but we'll work through it. So it's a Nakmund list, obviously. Well, I think this should be Nephilim. I think he's made it Nakmund. We start off with a squad of company veterans, and we've just got 2 both with double chainsword. And I mean, if you're going to run company veterans, I do actually think the double chainsword option is pretty interesting. I mean, a bolter is fine, but we don't really kill things with bolters that much. I prefer going double chainsword. It gives the sergeant like 6 attacks and the other guy like 5 attacks, I think. It's maybe more, actually. I think the company veteran has 3 attacks. 2 chainswords would give him 5 attacks. So maybe it's 7 attacks and 6 attacks. Maybe it's 13 attacks. Is it as much as that? 13 attacks from 2 veterans? company veterans. Yeah, it would be, because 2 chainsword gives you 2 more attacks, right? Fix the formatting as we go through. I mean, I can try a little bit. Alright, so 2 veterans with double chainswords. We've got the captain, who has Soul Warden, an Infernal Pistol, and a Relic Blade. He's got the Hero of the Chapter and a Relic of the Chapter, which is Visage of Death. We have Dante, who's the Warlord with Heroic Bearing. We have Sanguinary Priest with Rites of War and a Jump Pack and Armor Indomitus. And I've spoke a lot about the Armor Indomitus on the Sanguinary Priest. In my experience, the second the Sanguinary Priest gets targeted, he dies. Armor Indomitus is almost like saying, I fucked up my placement with him and I'm going to cross my fingers and hope he lives. I don't know if it's a right pick. I think, I mean, maybe as a newer player, it's fine to take Armor Indomitus. I think what ultimately you want to do is get away from picking Armor Indomitus on your priest and play your priest like pretty defensively, have him surrounded by models so he can't be targeted. Mark's 100% right. We are going to hopefully get a new balance slate sometime this week. Typically, I think it's been near the end of this week. At the end of the week, they've been releasing the balance slate, but I think it is going to be this week. Okay, so Armor Indomitus, I would probably try and save the 1 CP, just drop it, and yeah, I mean, I think when people jump on, like, I've definitely had it where like my priest has been charged by Mortarion, and I haven't even had Armor Indomitus like when my priest has been charged with Mortarion, but like if my priest gets charged with Mortarion, that's on me for putting my priest in a shitty position. Armor Indomitus wouldn't have saved him, and I think other times it'll be the same thing. You know, like if the enemy are going to be able to jump on your priest, then that's on you. But I mean, you can try it. But I think if you do want to take a relic on the priest, I think the relic choice is Teeth of Terra, because that gives him some offensive output. Like on turn 3, that gives him like 8 attacks, and he's hitting on 2s. And they're strength 5 with +1 to wounds. So I mean, like, he becomes a bit of a blender. It gives him a use late in the game, because like late in the game, I mean, he's just got a chainsword with like 5 attacks. He's not killing anything. So Teeth of Terra makes him useful. So I play him defensively until he can make a charge late in the game, and try and do some damage with him. This is fine. Like, it's not bad inks, but I think you just need to practice playing your priest. And I notice here you've got a big giant squad of Centurions. So, sorry, we've got Incursors, and Infiltrators. That's good. Infiltrators to hold the backfield, Incursors to get forward, and then 3 squads of Centurions. Sorry, 3 squads of Centurions? 5 Centurions. The formatting of this list is killing me, but I'm getting through it. 5 Centurions, right? So we'll go back to Paint, and you've got 5 Centurions. So your Centurions are laid out. Why does that not make a circle? Make a circle? No, apparently I can't draw a circle. Okay, I'll draw it with a paintbrush again. We'll go pink. So if your 5 Centurions are like this, your priest's here. So, and I mean that you could be tighter on these positionings. So like the priest can't be shot, he can't be charged, he's got rights of war. So that's one way you could put the priest, and then you don't need to worry about Armor Indomitus. Move him up the board with the Centurions for a couple of turns, then get him the fuck out of dodge or something like that, right? If the priest is mainly to benefit you in turn 1 and 2, Armor Indomitus can let you use him for Angel Sacrifice and maybe have a chance of surviving, says Mark. I mean, that's very true as well, Mark. Don't worry about the formatting. I know that sometimes the formatting from these programs can be shitty. Yeah, I think it's wishful thinking that the priest survives. Giving him 1 more wound and a slightly better save is fine. Maybe it's just me, but I never ever, like, period, pass any feel no pain rolls on my priest. The amount of times my priest dies and I fail all my 6-up feel no pains. So maybe you're great at getting 6-up feel no pains on your priest, and Armor Indomitus is going to be good for you. But I do think it's I do think it's not a great option. All right, we've got a squad of Death Company with hammers here, and I think this is 1, 2, 3, 4 hammers and a chainsword. And then I think you've got a second squad of Death Company with just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all with chainswords, and Death Company all with chainswords is pretty useful as well. I've been running a 5-man with all chainswords. They're very cheap. They get a lot of attacks per model. This balance slate is going to take 2 points off all Marines. Yeah, right. I mean, if it does, that would be awesome. But I doubt that will happen. No way. No way. Ollie, are you speculating? We then have a Sanguinary Guard of 6, with 2 swords, 4 axes. I will get more swords into the Sanguinary Guard. All my Sanguinary Guard at the moment, I would reckon you want about 75% swords. Swords are just better. I think they're more versatile. This next squad, where it's like 4 swords, 2 axes, seems perfect to me. And then the last squad's 4 axes, 2 swords again. Yeah, I mean, I just think, at worst case, go 50-50. But for the most part, lean into swords. So 3 squads of Sanguinary Guard, the 2 Death Company, the Centurions, the Infiltrators, then Cursors, Dante the Priest, and then a Death Company. No, not a Death Company captain, a Soul Warding captain. Yeah, I mean, this is a very solid list. This is similar in a way to Chris's list, that when you put like 325 points into Centurions, then something's got to give, I guess. And what I found. Oh, no, sorry. When you put 325 points into Centurions, I think what happens is you obviously have to give up pretty much all your fire support, and you build the list around those Centurions moving forward and keeping them alive and using them to screen other units. And I think it's Centurions, the Hurricane Bolters, I guess, are fine. The Flamers is the thing that makes them sort of unchargeable. It's fine. I've seen multiple people run this now, and I've seen multiple people do reasonably well at events. I don't think I've seen a Centurions list win an event yet, so maybe you'll be the first person to win an event with the Centurions list. But they have finished pretty high a few times. I played Centurions earlier this edition, but I think I prefer balancing my list with some shooting. I think that and like some high strength shooting, like multi-melta fire, or something of that nature. I don't know. I haven't been motivated to run a list like this. One, probably because I didn't think up it myself, but the other one, Luke, has your list been on today? It's coming up in like probably half an hour, Luke. I haven't been motivated to run the 5 Centurion list, even though I was probably one of the first players to run 3 Centurions for Blood Angels. The Centurions are survivable. They add sort of like a complex mechanic to the opponent, in that like they have to deal with the Centurions, because if they don't deal with the Centurions, all the jump units will crush them, and if they ignore the Centurions and deal with the jump units, then the idea is that it goes the other way around. In some ways, 325 points on Centurions is very similar to lists that used to run Double Redemptor. Double Redemptor went up in points. It used to be, I think, like 360 points for 2 Redemptors. And we used to see loads of Blood Angels players run 2 Redemptors, or we used to see loads of Blood Angels players run 2 Volcons, because 2 Volcons was 300 points. Maybe throw a Cyclone missile launcher on there, you're at 325 points. So in some ways, it's just a variant on that list. Rather than having some sort of shooting, you have an additional durable melee threat that can move center board. It's fine, but I mean, to me, I guess, I don't know. It's strange, because I enjoy playing the Centurions. I really did enjoy them. I think I just don't like putting 325 points into a single squad. And again, you know, I've played super heavy tanks recently, like 550 point units. If by some miracle this squad gets killed, I mean, you could get killed with a shitload of mortals and gunfire or whatever. It can be really difficult to come back from. Centurions aren't going to be able to move from cover to cover; they're too slow. You also have to give up like the whirlwind, so you have no way of like messing with counteroffensive. So yeah, it's a fine list. I don't really have any critique on it. I think you can do well with a list like this. I like that you've got Visage of Death and Rites of War across different characters. I also love that you've got Soul Warden, the Priest in there. So everything is good. Just I haven't played this list. The closest I would have to review of this list is the video I made. It was on the Tactics playlist. So like if you go to where would it be? If you go to like the YouTube, see Blood Angels Commander and click on, if you scroll down here a little bit to, sorry, competitive army list, this 5-in-1 Centurion list, where I break that down with Chris, who actually went 5-in-1 at this event with the 5-man squad of Centurions. That might be worth watching for you. Inks, you might get some value out of that I haven't mentioned in this video. So I'd really recommend you watch that, and maybe I answer some of the questions that he had. And then you actually added a second list, a 500 point list for boarding parties. If you guys haven't read about boarding actions yet, or boarding parties, I'm going to do a video on it when it actually drops. I'm really excited to try boarding parties. Would a bundle of Relic Terminators be worth it? Relic Terminators point for point are very good. Chain Fists and Lightning Claws, I think. So it's going to be no vehicles, no dreads, no tanks, no jump packs. These are all guesses, but yeah, that's why I'll make the video when I know what's actually in boarding party. You got Sangre Priest. You're probably going to want the Priest if we have Assault Doctrine, because you want to get into Assault Doctrine early. You've got a squad of Intercessors. That's a surprising choice. I would have thought in boarding party you might want Assault Intercessors, because the corridors are going to be tight and you're going to be able to get into combat a bit quicker. You got a squad of Relic Terminators. I mean, Relic Terminators are the cheapest Terminators. If you aren't teleporting in, then I guess Relic Terminators are good because they're just a couple of points cheaper than all the other Terminators. And then you've got an Assault Squad, which is a strange choice because Assault Squads don't get very much firepower and or attacks in melee combat. So it's hard to say. Like, no one's played boarding party yet. No one really knows what it's going to be. I do think Terminators are going to be really good. I don't know exactly how melee is going to work, like how many models you're going to be able to fight through and stuff like that. So stay tuned. I will make a video, Inks, on boarding party as soon as I know what's doing. And I want to play boarding party on the stream. So maybe we'll get a night where we play a few games of boarding party. Francesco says I like to just run full melee and Blood Angels. Eliminators might be okay, but attack bikes or eradicators don't fit our playstyle. Yeah, Francesco, but I think if you do run full melee, you 100% risk coming up against armies that you cannot beat. Like, you just flat out cannot beat them. Which is fine until you play them, like, you know, at the top table of a tournament and you lose because you're against an army that you cannot beat because you went 100% full melee. That's why, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but we've seen a lot of people run these full melee lists, and we've seen a lot, like, Inks, you're super generous, thank you so much. I did a video just this week, this newest tactics video, actually, for whatever reason, like when you add a new video, it puts it at the end of the playlist. So in this tactics playlist, if I scroll to the bottom, I'll just move it to the top because I always have to do this manually because whatever reason. This 4th place Blood Angels list at the Canada GT Open, that's a 100% melee list. He finished 4th, which is really good. And like, Chris went 5-1 at the WTC with like a full melee list. But I think like you just can't get that. You just can't go like 6-0 or 5-0 with that full melee. It's just not happening. Nobody's doing it. Like, yeah, no one's doing it since Armor of Contempt came out. Maybe somebody's done it, but I haven't seen it. And I usually get a lot of Blood Angels lists sent to me. So if someone's actually won an event with the full melee list, great. But I just haven't seen anyone managing to do it. So that's why I'm running some shooting, because I could have won an RTT, but I had that full melee list and I lost in the final game because I came up against an army that just has way too many counters to a full melee list. Fuzzy, congratulations on becoming a channel member. Welcome, Fuzzy. Find your way into our members only Discord room if you want to. There's a link in basically all my video descriptions. Okay, so yeah, this is a cool list, Inks. Thank you so much for the gifted sub again, and thanks for the ones last night. I think you can do really well with these lists. Obviously, people are showing you can do really well with these lists. There's just some armies that you like categorically cannot beat, and maybe that's all going to change in the balance data slate. But one of the lists that I think this is arguably impossible to beat right now is Sisters of Battle. Because I think Sisters of Battle will trade every single one of these squads. For example, like Sisters of Battle can trade they can send 110 point Seraphim Strahd at your Sangori Guard. They will 100% wipe the entire Sangori Guard. So they'll be able to trade up with every squad. So their 110 points will kill 185 points of models. And that's before we factor in Repentia. So even if you manage to make the charge on Repentia, then they'll fight on death and they'll trade with you anyway. So like Sisters of Battle are like a gatekeeper list against this. Drukarian transports or Harlequins and transports are kind of the same. But yeah, it's just worth pointing out that like no one's doing well with it. No one's winning with a list with fire support either, says DTM. Yeah, but no one plays the fire support except me, really. Like, unless like I'm the exception to the rule, right? Like top Blood Angels players, I feel like almost have blinkers on. You know, like when a horse has those blinkers on, so when it's walking down the road, it doesn't get scared by cars and stuff. Like, I feel like a lot of people have blinkers on. There's maybe been like a small shift. Like, I don't want to take credit for the shift, but like, I did see Steven's last list has now started including the Whirlwind for, I guess, the Fight Last and the counter-offensive interrupt, right? So like, I think if you go back 6 months, a year, Steven was 100% not running the Whirlwind. So maybe like enough people now are starting to run the Whirlwind as a Blood Angels player and seeing that there's a bit of strength there. I don't really want to take credit for it, but I think that like maybe some people are Blood Angels aren't winning events, so maybe some people are trying something outside the box. Steven also ran Rezio's Cortes idea, yeah? So like maybe people have blinkers on, I don't know. But what I do know is I keep going to events and I keep running fire support and I keep coming bloody close to winning one. So if I can win one, then maybe people might actually like sit up and go like, oh, maybe there is. Until someone does that and wins an event, no one will care, right? No one, you know, no one cares until someone wins with it. So I will keep trying. Maybe I'll win an event. I don't know. Or maybe I'm just wrong and we just have to run the full melee list and deal with it, right? Okay, so Jason Trump's up next. He's a newish 40k player. He's going to go with a 2k list. I know 4 characters, but I feel like my opponent is trying to assassinate the never overextend. Yep. 4 characters, I guess, if you use them right, can sort of... You're right. Sometimes it can bait the opponent into picking assassinate. I'm debating Inceptor units v Death Company. I really like Inceptors to come in turn 2 and clean up chaff in the opponent's backfield and help score Relentless Assault. It's a very good point. That is something Inceptors are really good at. I really wish that maybe the battle and status slate will improve. I think if Inceptors did mortal wounds as opposed to killing the models on rolls of 1, I think they'd see so much more play. Phoenix says, John, you're responsible for all GW Whirlwind sales. I don't know if I go that far. I haven't seen any royalty check from Games Workshop for that. But I mean, I try and the Whirlwind is MVP in so many games, isn't it? All right, we've got a captain on a bike with Angel's Artifice. He's the chapter master with Rights of War, and he has a power fist, and I guess a bolt pistol. He should have a master crafted bolt gun as well, I think. Or does he not? I actually don't know what the default weapon for a captain on a bike is, which is funny because I run a captain on a bike in every game. He must have a bolt gun. Yeah, master crafted bolt gun. I guess he's just not mentioned that for some reason. I mean, I don't... You have a twin bolt gun on the bike. So I guess the master crafted one gives you less shots but more AP. Okay, so we got a captain on a bike with Angel's Artifice. I'm tempted to say this is a character where Armor Indomitus would actually be better, because you would give up 1 toughness, but you would get that 3-up invulnerable save. So for me, I prefer Armor Indomitus on a bike captain. Bike captain is already toughness 5. I don't think there's a huge difference between toughness 5 and toughness 6 unless you're playing Death Guard that are making you -1 toughness. I don't think there's a huge difference between toughness 5 and toughness 6. Usually what's going to wound toughness 5 is going to wound toughness 6 on the same number, right? A Librarian and Phobos armor with Unleash Rage, Blood Boil, and Wings. Blood Boil is such a random spell in that, like, it's not reliable. I've tried it a bunch of times. You have to cast it, and then you have to roll over their leadership, and it sounds great on paper, a targetable smite. In reality, it's average at best. But I mean, it's the best spell I guess you could take. Maybe Blood Angels players should just play into Bloodlands, and because Blood Boil, just in my experience, I try to use it in like 4 or 5 games. When you do cast it, you fail the leadership roll, and then when you don't cast it, you pay the CP, and then you still fail the leadership roll. It's not great. Tournament leaders are such, because they play what is accepted wisdom, they can play and make their own both playstyle and judging what they will be facing. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a tournament leader, I guess, so I'll just play what I think is strongest. And yeah, I mean, I gave the full melee list a whirl. I put everything I had into it. You know, I gave it as much as a fair shout as I could. I just didn't love it. Okay. Assault Intercessors and 2 Incursor Squads, that's totally fine. The 5 Death Company with 4 Hammers, totally fine. The 5 Death Company with Infernal Pistols and Power Swords is actually really good, but a few people are coming around to that now because they've actually tried it, and it's generally pretty good. Why not take the Phobos powers? Because the Phobos powers are shit, and Unleash Rage is the best power that we get. Highland Phoenix, I think. Sangration with Wrath of Baal makes sense. Get that extra movement. We've got a 7, a 6, and a 6 Sangre Guard, all leaning towards swords, which is great. Inceptors with the Assault version. And I think these guys got a lot weaker with the Armor of Contempt changes. So I used to run these Inceptors, and they were great when they used to arrive at -2, and they would get, I think it would be... Was it 6 shots per model? I think it was 6. So I think it was 18 shots, and you were on strength 5 with -2, 1 damage. I guess into Armor of Contempt. Yeah, it would be -2 because of Tactical Doctrine, so with Armor of Contempt it would potentially only be -1. I mean, it's not bad. Yes, it can clear out some chaff. It used to be pretty good into Marines. I guess now it's not that good into Marines. I suppose it's good into Sisters, but again, it used to be better. You get 1 squad of Las Fusel Eliminators, you got 1 squad of Melter Gun Eradicators, and then you got the Whirlwind. So you have a little bit of fire support here. The 4 jump units, the 3 assault, or the 3 troops, the Librarian and Phobos. The Librarian and Phobos being just 15 points less than Mephiston really makes me feel like I would just take Mephiston. Is the forward deploy and 15 more points that worth it? You also have Visage of Death on the Sangre Priest, who is the Warlord. We have Rights of War here. No Soul Warden, but I mean, that's okay. John, have you considered dropping the Whirlwind for another unit that can charge around the board? I mean, I have considered dropping the Whirlwind, but I feel like its counter-offensive is worth its weight in gold, really. I mean, for the 125, I could have another squad of 5 Death Company, I suppose, with like some power swords or infernal pistols, but I honestly, especially if you're going to make 2 charges in the same turn early in the game when the opponent have CP to burn, being able to prevent that counteroffensive is really, it's worth a whirlwind. I tend to agree as well. I don't think you need 20 Sangre Guard to be competitive. My last list, I think the list that I played has won 3 games now, is only running 12 Sangard. I used to run more Sangard and less Death Company, but like I kind of made a shift to more Death Company because I really like that Death Company with Infernal Pistols and Power Swords. I think that's really good. I think 1 squad of Sangard is a mistake. I think 2 squads is a minimum, and I think 6 or 7 in each squad is the optimal number. So yeah, Mike said 12 minimum Sangard. I think that is the minimum. Yeah, like somewhere between 12 and 20 is good, but I definitely don't think you need 20. I mean, I was going to say how many the list that we looked at on Friday that did 4th place at that GT where he almost finished 2nd or 3rd. He was only 1 game away. He did 15 Sangard. He did 3 squads of 5, which is, I don't like squads of 5. I think 6 is best, but he obviously performed pretty well with them. So Jason's list. The Sangard look good. The Inceptors are fine, maybe a bit weaker than they were. Eliminators and Eradicators are fine. I prefer attack bikes with multi-meltas over Eradicators. We talked about that earlier. You could probably almost change that out by dropping like 1 Sangard out of one of these squads. Then you're only like 15 points shy of 3 attack bikes. I think at that point you could probably upgrade this guy to Mephiston. Does anyone feel like a Librarian in Phobos armor at 15 points less than Mephiston? Because like he gets the same number of denies and he gets a forward deployment. Does anyone feel like that's worth it over Mephiston for 15 points less? I feel like the only thing the Phobos Librarian gets is the forward deploy, right? Librarian and Phobos armor. He gets concealed positions. That's it. Yeah. Right. When he's in cover, you can add 1 to his armor save. Okay. I mean, you shouldn't be getting shot in cover anyway because the lookouts are, right? Highland Phoenix wouldn't take the Phobos Librarian without the Phobos powers. He also gets a cloak which makes him durable. I mean, it makes him durable, but it doesn't. He's still not as durable with Mephiston, even if Mephiston isn't in cover. And if he's in cover, then Mephiston's still more durable because he's got more toughness and he's got feel no pain, right? I guess I just did. Thanks for hanging out, Francesco. I do appreciate it. I guess I just did a bunch of math hammer on that Death Company with Infernal Pistols and Power Swords. I think the one I actually did was just Death Company with Power Swords. Like I didn't even factor in the Infernal Pistols, and like the point for point, they did really really well now because I think a Death Company with a Power Sword, like a Power Sword guy, are they like 25 points per model? Maybe they're 26. A jump pack and a power sword, but like they feel really competitive. Yeah, I think 26 is right. So when you talk about like 5 guys for 26 points a model, so 130 points. Is that right? Yeah. 130 points. You're getting 25 power sword attacks in Assault Doctrine. Um, Obviously, there's loads of ways to get rerolls. There's loads of ways to get +1 to hit. There's also ways to get exploding sixes. 25 power swords. Remember, you get +1 to wound as well. Like, so you're wounding Marines on 2s, and they're -4. So they carve shit up for 130 points. They really do. So yeah, when I did that, I think someone submitted an army list with like, I think it was an 8-man death company with power swords, and I think it was like under 200 points or there or thereabouts. When I ran the math, I was like, holy shit, these guys do like a lot of damage. Just because they're really high AP and they're +1 to wound, and there's so many attacks coming out against 1 wound enemies, they just carve them up. Okay, so what can we say to Jason? Yeah, I mean, my thought here, like, if this is me, I'm improving. Like, if this is my list, I'm getting Mephisto on the list. I'm getting attack bikes from multi-metals on the list, and I'm questioning if Inceptors are that good anymore because they were good, and then they've been hurt pretty badly by the Armor of Contempt changes. Do you know what? I actually know what I'm going to do here in this list. Then I'm going to drop 1 Sanguinary Guard. I would I'd run my attack bikes with multi-meltas. I'd drop this Inceptor squad, and I'd just run a second Death Company with chainswords and bolt pistols, because they're 105 points. So that would let you, by dropping 1 Sanguinary Guard and your Inceptors, that would give you another squad of guys with chainswords. That's 30 chainsword attacks. I think 30 chainsword attacks is better than 18 Inceptor attacks. Hard to say, I guess. But I have Bolter Inceptors, and I used to really like them, but I feel like every time I brought my Inceptors down as of late, they don't do as much as I would hope them to do. Even without rerolls, it's 18 hits, 15-ish wounds, and 12-point fan. Yeah, so a 5-man power sword Death Company squad can do a lot of damage. You could get a power sword in the Assault Intercessor Sergeant. I mean, you could. I would also swap out like this for Angels. Armor Indomitus. I would swap that out. And yeah, I mean, a lot of people on the stream don't like Mephiston, but if we want to talk about like a survivable character, I guess at 140 points, he is probably the most survivable character we can get. This guy's toughness 4, 5 wounds, 3 up save. Mephiston is toughness 5, 6 wounds, 2 up save, and then he's got a 5 up feel no pain, which across basically like 6 wounds is the equivalent of like 2 more wounds. So really, you could just imagine him as 8 wounds with no feel no pain. So you're getting, for 25 points, sorry, 15 points, you're getting 1 more toughness, you're getting like 3 more wounds, you're getting a 2 up save, and Mephiston moves 7 inches. So once you get past this fact that he can conceal positions, Mephiston's going to be more useful throughout the game. He's going to get more attacks as well, and his weapon is strength 10, which I guess you've got to factor in too, right? Yeah. Okay, let's move on. For 120 points, it seems fine to me. Yeah, I mean, it seems fine. I guess I'm just wary that it used to be really good in, like, I used to use it a lot into Sisters of Battle, because them saving on 5s in turn 2 when they arrived was 18. So it would be 18 shots, right? You would hit on 3s, so that would be 12 hits. You'd wound on 3s, so that would be 8 wounds. They would save on 5s, so 8 saves on 5 plus means you probably kill a unit of like 5 Battle Sisters, right? Whereas now with Armor of Contempt, you maybe kill half the unit DTM. So because of that, I'm not so in love anymore with Inceptors. yes, I guess you could fire at non-Armor of Contempt units, but it feels like, well, Sisters of Battle are one of the top scoring armies to play against right now. If you go to a tournament, you're going to run into a Sisters of Battle player. You're going to have to expect stuff like Repentia, Zeraphim, all these things that they're going to be able to save just too reliably. You can do Lord of Deceit on the Phobos Librarian. I guess you can, Ben, but like, I never really pick Lord of Deceit. When you redeploy from Lord of Deceit, you have to pull everything back to your deployment zone. You can't forward deploy with the redeploy, and I think that's what puts it off for me. Alright, Luke, good evening. Thanks for being here, Luke, and thanks for being a channel member. I do really appreciate all you guys who are channel members. Okay, so this is my latest iteration. It's tournament's coming up in 2 weeks. I'm having a lot of joy using Death Company for Max and Fury the Lost. The Smash Captain is a real highlight again, which is giving me big 8th edition flashbacks. Only debate for him is a 4 damage Master Hammer against the Hammer of Baal. Okay, I mean, I think I did that in a video, and I think both choices are kind of fine. I think that the Hammer of Baal is probably better again into Armor of Contempt, but I mean, it's hard to factor that in. Or Armor Indomitus. 1 CP to have a 3-up for a second Death Vision in a turn after Armor Indomitus is excellent. Yeah, the 3-up in a turn after the Death Vision is good. The problem I have with that is you only get to activate that Death Vision when you are selected to fight. So if the enemy charge you, you can't use the Death Vision, right? Which is my problem with the Death Visions. I think Death Visions should activate like at the start of the fight phase, not when your models activate. Death Vision sounded really cool on paper. In reality, we don't really see them all that often, right? 5 Voidsmen in a Storm are the true MVP. You can't do this anymore, right? You know that. They made it so Voidsmen can't go in transports anymore. So that's going to, I guess, affect this list a little bit. Quite a few games either held objectives or been throwaway to take midpoints. So Fury of the Lost, Relentless Assault, Abhor, Assassinate, Bring It Down, Blade of Sanguinius. If you are going to event, Luke, download my download the flowchart. Hopefully it will help you a little bit, maybe make some good decisions. Okay, so 2,000 points, 2 CP left. We've got the Voidsman at Arms. These guys are actually going to cost you 50 points now. They don't cost 8 points per model anymore. They do cost 50. Have I played any games against League of Votann yet? No, but Andrew has been building tons of his League of Votann and sending me pictures. So Andrew's away this week, so maybe next week or the week after. Oh, you played the event yesterday, went 3-2. Okay, well, congrats. That's not bad, Luke. I guess we can just talk over this list and... That's very true. Mark says we've got a new video coming out this week about the Voidsman stuff. Yeah, so Voidsmen are now going to cost you 50, but they are troops, so you're going to be able to do NAC1 data guaranteed with the 5 of them, right? We got Dante as the Warlord with Heroic Bearing. We got a Death Company Captain with Rights of War and Armor Indomitus. Interesting picks, I guess. I kind of like it, though. I guess he's got the jump pack, he's got the Infernal Pistol, he's got the Thunder Hammer, okay. And then you've got the Selfless Healer, Icon of the Angel, Priest. I don't run Chief Apothecary anymore, and I don't run Icon of the Angel either. I guess if you think that you get value out of those upgrades, by all means run them. I find Chief Apothecary, like, I very rarely manage to get revives off. Like, I maybe managed to do 1 revive in the entire game. And if you're only going to do 1 revive in the entire game, then why pay the 35 points for the Chief Apothecary? Why not just spend 1 CP during the game and revive 1 model the same way and you've saved yourself 35 points? I could be wrong, but that's just how it seems to work for me. And that, like, people know if you're running that Chief Apothecary that you're going to be reviving models, so they will 100% try and kill squads in their entirety to prevent you reviving stuff. So yeah, that's something to consider, I guess. Assault Intercessors, and Infiltrators with the Helix Gauntlet. So the Helix Gauntlet makes the Infiltrators more survivable, I guess. lets you sit them in the backfield and be a little bit more comfortable with them. Assault intercessors are fine. I just think incursors offer a lot more. Yeah, they offer a few less attacks, but they're more survivable. They're the same obsec. You can ping them around the board. If you run Plasma, reviving as Paramount says Living Ghost. Yeah, I guess if you run Plasma. But I don't run Plasma because Plasma's unreliable, right? Alright, we've got 3 squads of Death Company, 2 Thunderhammers, 3 Infernal Pistols, 3 Power Fists. Power Fists are fine. I think you would probably get away with Power Swords here. Infernal Pistols and Swords, and then Infernal Pistols and Swords. Okay, and this... I've run this Infernal Pistol and Sword squad. I just ran it last week against the Orcs, or 2 weeks ago against the Orcs. It's fucking awesome for 145 points. If you haven't run in a squad like this for 145 points, I would recommend you do so. At some point, I might get it to where I can run 5 all Infernal Pistol, all Power Sword. But this 5-man Power Sword with 3 Infernals, I think is really good. Oh, my daughter's up. One sec. Is she? I heard a noise. Maybe it's okay. Alright, we've got 6 Angry Guard, 3 Infernal Pistols. Sorry, 2 Infernal Pistols. Another 2 Infernal Pistols, and then one with 1 Infernal Pistol. Seems all good. You've got the Assault Squad with, I assume, a couple of Plasmas and like a Lightning Claw Plasma on the Sergeant. And then the Storm. Okay. I guess you're going to have to change things, because obviously the Voidsmen don't go in the Storm anymore, which will make things a little bit tricky. Like, you might need to include a squad of Scouts. 3 Death Company, 3 Sandguard as the core of the list. Makes a lot of sense. I like having a couple of Infernal Pistols in each squad. It means that you can open up transports, you can do a bit of damage before you charge. The data slate isn't normally for points changes. Yeah, I mean, the data slate is unlikely to make points changes, isn't it? It's more likely to change a rule or something like that. Maybe they can make Bolt or Discipline good again, or maybe they can make Doctrines a little bit more customizable. I don't know how they're going to balance Marines, but they're going to have to do something. Highland Phoenix would take some axes in the Sangre Guard squads. I mean, I like to take a few swords and a few axes. It means that when you're playing against different opponents, you can pull away the dead models that make the most sense for that situation. I guess this is very much your full melee list. So, hold on. Luke said that you got beat by Nids, and he got beat by Necrons. I mean, Nids are probably a pretty good counter against this, because they're going to throw out an absolute shitload of mortal wounds, and you don't have Soul Warden. Soul Warden will help a lot against Nids, but it's not going to just win you the game. Also, having a Psyker would help a bit against Nids, because potentially you might want to be denying some of the nasty shit that they throw out there. Against Necrons, yeah, I mean, I guess if you're playing something like the Silent King or the Void Dragon or something, wounds per phase models, this list will struggle maybe a little bit with wounds per phase, because you'll never be able to do 3 wounds across 3 separate phases in your own turn, because you've got no way of doing any damage in the psychic phase. I mean, that's fine as well. I like putting Infernal Pistols across all the squads. I think it gives you an option against those transport heavy lists. I possibly would lose the Assault Squad and the Storm now and put in like a Whirlwind, because I think when you have this many units wanting to make charges, Nightbringer and Void Dragon and the Silent King were in the center of the board. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you would deal with that at all as an all melee list. You would have, you would have no chance against that. You could have flooded around the edge of the board and try and to try and take everything else from them, but I mean, that's difficult in itself. Two Catan lists are pretty difficult to kill. Like, the best way you deal with them is by having a Psyker. and then it comes down to, can you do enough damage in the psychic phase? Yeah, do you feel like you got value out of the selfless healer? Like, is that something you felt like you got value out of game on game? Because I feel like the selfless healer is not as cracked up as it used to be. Um, if you did drop that selfless healer stratagem spend, you could potentially get Soul Warden into maybe on the Death Company Captain, or maybe it's nice to have Soul Warden on a different character from the priest, so you have two bubbles um, of protection against mortals. And I mean, that Necron list is throwing out a ton of mortals as well with all the Catan powers, right? Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier in the stream, these lists aren't quite winning tournaments. They're doing well, but they're not quite winning. And I think 3 for 2 is very respectable. I think that this sort of list frustrated me to the point where, like, I'm now running some firepower, and I'm also running a psyker to try and give myself some more options. I think I ran a list where I did 3 Death Company and 3 in Sangard, and it is good, but then if you run into an enemy that's got a shitload of fight last, then you have a huge problem as well with a list like this, right? Because, like, you'll not get to fight. You'll charge in with 2 units of Sangre Guard and they have an aura of fight last, and it's like, well, they'll fight before you and kill 1 or 2 units of Sangre Guard. I think it's very difficult. I think it's a very high skill list to play and to win against all enemies. So yeah, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm including some shooting. I've done better at events when I've included some shooting, and maybe I'm not the strongest Blood Angels player, but like I think that these sort of lists they become unstuck. And I actually a few years ago, it was maybe at the beginning of ninth, so maybe about 18 months ago, I remember seeing Stephen Box, who's arguably the best Blood Angels player in the world, playing a full melee list like this into Death Guard, when the Death Guard player had like 2. What's the thing that makes you fight last with the Death Guard? Is it the Foul Blight spawn? And the Foul Blight spawn even had the relic. So the Foul Blight spawn, you pick 1 unit within 3 to fight last, but there's also a relic that the Foul Blight spawn can carry, and the relic makes the relic's even more brutal. I forget what the relic's called, but it basically means that you don't count as charging. So if you think about Blood Angel's army, if you don't count as charging, then that's no extra attack from Savage Echoes, that's no extra attack from Shock Assault, that's no +1 to wound from Red Thirst. So you're charging into Death Guard, you're basically every model's losing 2 attacks and every model's losing its +1 to wound. And it was like, I remember watching the game, and I think Steven got beat like pretty badly. I want to say like 70 to 50 or something. It was just like, when I looked at the list, I was like, I don't know how you literally can't beat that Death Guard list with if his positioning of that Foul Blight spawn is good, you can't beat that list. You can't fucking beat it, because anytime you charge, he'll fight first, and you don't get any of your charging bonuses. And you know yourself, when Blood Angels charge, and you get all your bonuses, and you get those extra attacks, and you get the +1 to wound, and you do a ton of damage. If your units ever get left in combat for a turn, you come back the second turn, you're like, oh, my Sangre Guard, they're no longer getting 5 attacks, they're only getting 3, and now they're wounding on 4s, they're now wounding on 5s. You don't do any damage in that second round of combat. So it's like, I think it's tough, Luke. I mean, if this is me, I'm figuring out where I am at the moment, or I think I made a video. I did make a video, probably talking a little bit about all this. I did it recently, It was like building my next tournament list video. That was the one. So if you click into this video, you maybe watched it, but I like broke down some of the stuff. I think I had some slides in here where I like, can I find it? Yeah, like I had a slide where I was like top tier things that I think are good for fast attack right now, like land speeders with multi-meltas, attack bikes with multi-meltas. And I sort of broke down everything and said like, hey, you know, you need to Blood Angels right now. I mean, everybody's got these models. Everybody's doing lists like this. They're good, but there's too many counters. I keep saying there's too many counters. Someone's going to go ahead and win an event with this stuff, right? And make me look like a chump. But, I mean, I don't win events anyway. I keep failing, so maybe I am just a chump. But yeah, I just think there's too many counters. I don't know how you beat some of the counters. I don't think there is ways to beat the counters. The only ways to beat the counters is that the opponents are bad at playing, really. And like, you don't want to be going to a tournament going, well, I know I'm going to have to fight last against this Death Guard list. Let's just hope the player's not very good at positioning his models, right? Alright, let's look at Michael's list. He's got a captain on a bike with Soul Warden, Angel's Artifice, an Infernal Pistol, and a Thunderhammer. Change this out for Armor and Indomitus. I think it's much better. Again, captain on a bike's already toughness 5. Change it out. We've got Mephiston with Quickening, Blood Boil, and Wings. This is a mistake. I would never take Blood Boil over Unleash Rage. I feel like Unleash Rage is so powerful. Especially, I mean, you got multiple squads of Sanguinary Guard and Death Company. Yeah, you're going to want Unleash Rage. Let's come back. I'm going to read his comments once we've gone over the list. We've got the Tech Marine who's Master of the Forge. If you keep trying, giving up will be the real failure, says Zacharias. I mean, I'm going to just try with some, like, a squad of attack bikes and a Storm Speeder. I've been painting the Storm Speeder the last few nights. It's a pretty fun model to paint. So it'll just give me, you know, if there's a big blob of units that I can't go close to because I'm not getting any of my charge bonuses, then I'll hit them with all the multi-meltas. When I'm making my list, I'm not going like, I must fire these multi-meltas at a tank or something. I know Death Company can kill a tank. I know Sanguinary Guard can kill a tank. What I'll use the multi-meltas is for, like, for example, at one of the tournaments I played against, like, had Woven fight on death. So any unit that I try and kill them with, they'll fight back and they'll kill me. So if I got line of sight to the Woven, fuck it, I'll shoot the Woven with a 6 multi-meltas. That'll get rid of them to a point where, like, now I can charge them and it's only 1 or 2 guys fighting on death. I'm not too worried about that. What I'm worried about is a huge big squad of Woven fighting on death. Or when I play Sisters of Battle, they quite often have big squads of, like, 8-man Repentia squads. Well, if I can get line of sight on them and shoot all the Stormbolters and the multi-meltas at Repentias, I don't really care. I mean, I'll just have wiped the Repentias off the board, and then I'll feel much more confident with the jump units that I have, right? So yeah, that's where I'm at with it. And I've got a GT in, like, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks time. So I'm gonna run the Storm Speeder most probably. I'm gonna run Attack Bike multi-meltas, and then I'll, in doing so, I'll only have 2 Sanguinary Guard. I'll only have 2 Death Company. I'd like to have more, but I feel like I need to have that fire support, because if I don't have the fire support, then I'll lose the game, because I'll be playing somebody where, you know, I'll be playing an army where they can trade too effectively. They can shut down my whole melee list, and it is what it is, I guess. Alright, Assault Intercessors, 2 Infiltrator Squads. We've got the Death Company with 2 Thunderhammers and 3 Power Swords. I mean, I like any variant of Power Swords and Thunderhammers right now. I think they're both really good. Good evening, Life RPG. How are you doing? Sometimes you can only hope your opponent makes mistakes. Yeah, I mean, you can hope your opponent makes mistakes. I think what's better is to try and build a list that will fight against all the difficult combinations. Yeah. Ken has commissioned a pretty sick attack bike. I'll give away the STL file for anyone on your Discord. Yeah, I mean, I guess put that in the Discord. If it's, as long as it's not someone's IP and it's something that's made from scratch, Ken, I guess I think that's okay. We've got the Relic Contemptor with a couple of Twin Volkites and Cyclones, and I still like these Relic Contemptors. I still think they're good. Maybe, you know, if you're struggling to figure out what can be good for shooting for Blood Angels, then these things are fine. I think that they're still reasonably competitive. 195 points, even 170 if you lose the Cyclones. They're just a little bit swingy, but if you're okay with swing, then I guess Relic Contemptors are still good. Blood Angels are struggling into Nids, but there's no way Nids don't get thracked with more nerfs coming soon. Yeah, I think the Nids are going to get something in the balance slate this week. We then have the 3 squads of Sanguinary Guard, and it's all 6 mainly swords, which is perfect. We've got Eliminators with Las Fusils. We've got a Vindicator Laser Destroyer. I like this. Put a Vindicator Laser Destroyer in your list that gives you 3 shots, potentially 6 damage a shot. And, I guess it switches up, right? Like, the enemy cannot ignore a Vindicator Laser Destroyer. It's toughness 8. It's got 3 up. It's got a good Armor of Contempt save as well. An ignored Vindicator Laser Destroyer. It's going to get some shots off, do some damage. And I guess this is realistically where we have to be. I'm not sure I love going Tech Marine, and I've gone Tech Marine before in my lists. I don't love the Tech Marine because I think if you take the Tech Marine, then you can't have the Priest. And I think you get a lot of value from having that Priest in the early game for Blood Angels. Like, it's so important, the Priest. So the Tech Marine is good. If you've got a Relic Contemptor and a Vindicator Laser Destroyer, I guess you're making one of them hit on 2s. I guess that's your discretion. You guys are going to start with a $10 super chat from Mike. Mike, thank you so much again for the $10. And Carter with the membership for Adamort. You guys are
Mike
you guys are awesome.
$10 via super chat. Carter, Inks already gifted a sub this stream. Cold sweat smile.
You guys are awesome. I mean, there's nothing else to say. You guys made my evening last night, so thank you so much for that. And I think somebody said to my wife, "Happy birthday." I told her, and she was like, "Oh, that's really nice." So yeah, you guys really made my evening last night. Thank you. Yeah, so I think realistically, I don't love going Tech Marine first because you give up the Priest. I think before, when command points were more in abundance, you could pay 2 CP for tactical. What's the stratagem? Adaptive strategy. Whereas now, I feel like adaptive strategy is too expensive, so I've leaned away from this Tech Marine. But at the same time, I did play 2 events where I took a Primaris Tech Marine. One of the events I took double Redemptor. One of the attempts I took double Contemptor. And I did well in both those events. So those are both valid tactics with Blood Angels. If the Dreadnoughts are ignored, and it's almost like the Centurions list we looked at earlier, right? If the Dreadnoughts are ignored, same if the Centurions are ignored and they try and kill everything else, there's the danger that those Dreadnoughts / Centurions will take over the game and they'll just, this isn't Redemptor Dreadnoughts, but Redemptor Dreadnoughts can be crazy at the end of the game because, those 3 damage plasmas plus those D3 plus 3 damage fists, and 16 shots here. This thing can potentially do like 8 mortal wounds a turn. It doesn't always do it. Sometimes it'll do 0, but it can do both. So for me right now, this is a more preferable list than going all melee because I think it gives you some options. I like the range on the Contemptor, and that's 45 inches range. You can keep it fairly safe. The range on the Vindicator Laser Destroyer is also really good. It's 36. 95 points for a Reaver squad. I would try and find 10 points and just make that second Death Company with chain swords. I don't think the Reavers do any damage. I mean, maybe they're there to score some points, but probably what you could do is swap one of these Infiltrator squads for Incursor squad. I feel like one Infiltrator in the backfield plus like your Dreadnought's probably going to be reasonably decent for screening. Put in a second Death Company squad with bolt pistols and bolt pistols and chainswords. Swap out Blood Boil. Swap out Angel's Artifice. Let's see what he said, because he wrote me a big message. Okay, Michael. Hi, Blood Angels Commander. Thanks for reviewing my previous list. I thought it said an updated one with a few notes of how it's been doing this past week. Switched out 1 Relic Contemptor for 5. Oh, he had Voidsmen in this list as well. Did I miss that? No, he had Servitors. Okay, so hold on. I switched out, oh, and the Voidsman for my Vindicator Laser Destroyer. I noticed that folks are scared of the 6 damage shots. It changed their approach to avoid all the tank fire. It's a small model, so it's a lot easier to hide. Against Chaos Knights and Genestealer Cults, Vindicator was back midfield with the Tepmarine, Contemptor, and Eliminators. Tepmarine felt useless. I kind of figured he would, except he was able to make the Vindicator hit on 2s each turn. Which in some ways doesn't make him useless, right? Like, if he's making the Vindicator hit on 2s and he's keeping it on top bracket, that's kind of his job. He also repaired 1 mortal wound on the tank inflicted on himself. I'm not sure that's worth 85 or 100 points. I mean, the 20 points you pay for Master of the Forge means that you always repair 3. On average, you repair 2, so maybe you can save 15, 20 points there. The Tepmarine gets 8 attacks, though. If you get him into combat later in the game, he actually gets like a lot of attacks. He can do some damage. I also like he's got a ballistic skill of 2. So I kind of like the Primaris Tepmarine. I think he's a decent model. Just I think the Priest is the better choice. The Captain on the Bike was able to give Chapter Master rerolls for 2 turns to the Contemptor before he made it midfield with the rest of the army, which is nice. Eliminator served as cleanup. With their armor save transhuman, they draw a lot of fire. I never really thought about transhumaning eliminators. I kind of feel like you don't need to with their 1-up save ignoring 1 AP from Armor of Contempt. Infiltrators with a 12-inch denial are amazing for defense. Well, we knew that, but do you really need 2 squads? Could you not go 1 infiltrator, 1 incursor? But also, if used offensively, can mess up opponents' plans. Screened out armigers from Deep Strike that would assault the Dread and tank. Okay. Screen out mid and backfield from Genestealer Cult trying to deep strike too. The Reavers did 1 R&D each game and were annoying. It's 95 points worth it. If you only manage to get 1 R&D out of them, you might be better just doing a assault squad, because they're going to basically be able to do the same. For 1 CB, they can go back into reserves and do another table quadrant. So can infiltrators if not being used. The Reavers also have a good strat for obsec removal, but it's 2 CB. I think it's too expensive, the Reavers obsec removal strat. I think you'd be better putting Rights of War. Well, you've already got Rights of War on the Captain, so yeah, I think the obsec removal on the Reavers is probably too expensive. Here's the list I've played. I have thoughts about what you said regarding the Priest, so a modified version of this list with no Tepmarine, no Servitors, no Cyclone Missile Launcher in the Contemptor, with 1 Priest, who's the Chief Apothecary, Armor, and Dominus. We talked about them a few times in the stream. I don't think the Chief Apothecary is needed. I don't think Armor and Dominus is particularly needed either. I think the strength of the Priest is just getting you into Assault Doctrine in that turn 1 and 2, really. That's why he's there. That does it does improve the Bloody Angels list a lot. The Chapter Master is still expensive. Give him Armor and Dominus, though. Give that to the Chapter Master. That makes him more survivable than Angel's Artifice, arguably. And the question is, if having the Tepmarine and getting the Vindicator hit on 2s each turn is worth it to compare to the Sanguinary Priest for the Chalice / Feel No Pain. Well, if you ever make charges in turn 1 or 2, then I think that the Priest is more important. If you're not going to make any charges in turn 1 and 2, then the Tepmarine is a fine choice. But like in reality, you're going to make charges in turn 1 and turn 2. Typically, if you can make a Forlorn Fury into any unit that's more than 150 points, you're going to want to do that to trade up. That also leaves a squad of Death Company in your opponent's deployment zone, which will score you a Relentless Assault and make them sit in their own deployment zone and try and mop up a squad of Death Company. If they don't deal with the squad of Death Company, then they're going to, it's going to be real shitty for them. And sometimes you can be really mean with those Death Company in that if you kill the model you charged, you could maybe consolidate into a weaker squad that was maybe just going to be there to like hold an objective or try and move out onto one of the flanks and like tie them up. So this list is fine. The Tepmarine in essence with like a Relic Contemptor and the Laser Destroyer is also fine. The Reavers seem like a meh pick. I would swap them out. I mean, this is an elite slot as well, so I would totally swap them out for Death Company. I'd probably also swap out that 1 Infiltrator squad. And then it's just, is the Tepmarine worth it over the Priest? I think the Priest is better here. And I think it also maybe gives you the option. It gives you that second bubble of protection, and it gives you the option to revive. And a Vindicator Laser Destroyer and a Relic Contemptor are very easy to obscure. Like, they're not huge models. You can obscure them easily in turn 1. And they also have really good range. You know, like the Relic Contemptor is 45-inch range. The Vindicator is 36-inch range. So, like, if you're fighting an army that has, like, well, use squats, for example. I think most of their weapons are 24 inches, right? So you can probably outrange them. So you don't necessarily need the Tech Marine to keep things alive. Yes, it sucks that you only have Ballistic Skill 3. I guess Ballistic Skill 3 doesn't really matter on the Relic Contemptor, right? Because you get Chapter Master rerolls and it's got core. So it's really just the Vindicator Laser Destroyer. Yeah, it sucks that you're going to be hitting on 3s, but it's not the end of the world. I think you want the, like, if you charge with the Death Company, if you're an Assault Doctor and you're getting 5 extra attacks, you're getting 1 more point of AP across everything. I think that's more important than 1 extra shot maybe hitting because you're hitting on a 2 rather than a 3, right? But you do 100%. You want to be using the Blood Chalice. That's the reason to take the Priest. Arguably, I think the Priest is better with the jump pack because you can move around and maybe make a revive later in the game, or you can jump up and catch up with a unit to do a heal. Sometimes I've used the Priest to, like, heal my Bite Captain when you be down on one wound or something like that. But yeah, I think that at the beginning of the edition, the Tech Marine was a fine choice. I also do think if you run the Tech Marine, he's a good character for Quake Bolts because of his Ballistic Skill 2+ and his Assault Forge Bolter. But so if you're dead set on the Tech Marine, then the Forge Bolter Quake Bolts is a good combo here. How many CP did this list have? 2. So you could take that. It would help out, like, your Forlorn Fury Death Company or anything you were going to do like that. But yeah, I think the Priest is better. But this list isn't bad, and this list is more like, if you make, like, if let's say we talk about a rock in a hard place. That's a saying that people say. If you said to me you have to play an all melee list, or you have to play this list with the Tech Marine and you can't have the Priest, I would play this over the all melee list. Because I think the all melee list can 100% be countered, whereas with this, I could slow play for a couple of turns. I could use my Tech Marine and my shooting to do incremental or insignificant, or is it incremental? No, the word is like I don't know. The word means, like, to do a little bit incidental. Yeah, maybe, like, I could do incidental damage at range and then make a bunch of charges on turn 3. Like, I'd rather play this list than play a whole melee list, because I don't think this list gets countered by. It's maybe not quite as strong if against the right army, but at least it doesn't get completely shut down / countered by some of that, like, fight last shenanigans and bullshit that you just can't deal with. So thanks for the list, Michael. You got any questions? I noticed the armor save against the Contemptor makes it always useless. Yeah, I mean, if you're running a Relic Contemptor with Volcons, you are literally at the Dice God's mercy. You are fishing for 6s. So sometimes when you use the Relic Contemptor, and this maybe works better when you've got 2 of them. If you use 2 of them, you can use the Wisdom of the Ancient strat to let them reroll 1s to wound to try and get more 6s. Like, you're fishing for 6s. You're trying to get the mortals at long range. And yeah, I've been in a tournament before where we've had games where one Volcon can do 8 mortal wounds. We've had games where one does 0 mortal wounds. What do you think the main strategies Blood Angels can take to win, or different army build styles that can be successful? I mean, I don't know if I'm going to cover all that in just this video, MB92. I did say earlier in the stream I made a video. It was on. If you go to the Blood Angels Commander YouTube channel, It was just right here at the top somewhere. Where was it? Like this one, building my next tournament list, step-by-step guide. This is the video that you want to watch, right? Fishing at 16.66% is kind of dumb. I mean, it is, but you are rolling 16 dice, right? Because that's how many shots you get, and arguably you can make you can hit 97% of the time with that. Because you get 16 shots if you can hit on 2s, reroll 1s, which you can do with the Tepbrine. So I mean, you hit 15.52 times 1.666. So you're doing 2.5 mortal wounds at worst, or you're doing 2.5 mortal wounds on average. But honestly, that swings from 0 to 5. I think I've even had it do 7 mortals. So yeah, I get the Relic Contemptors with double Volcons, and remember you can run 2 of them, so you could 2 of them on average should do 5 mortal wounds. 5 mortal wounds at 45 inches is actually pretty decent on averages, and like I said, that could swing to 10 mortal wounds at 45 inches away. I mean, there's not many armies that can do 10 mortal wounds at 45 inches away, and it happens. It 100% happens. I've wiped squads with 1 barrel from those Relic Contemptors. Yeah. Okay. I think we're about to move on to the last army list today. Michael bought a Sicarian Venator to go along with the Laser Destroyer instead of the Contemptor. What's the Venator's weapon again? I forget. I don't actually own any Sicarians, you know that? Maybe that's the next thing I need to buy. The Venator is... Oh, the one with the neutron laser. Okay. I mean, the danger with going... the danger with going for, like, these sort of weapons is that, like, if you come up against an army with a ton of chaff, then you're really inefficient, right? Out of 16, though, I guess it's all right. Yeah, out of 16, it's 2.5. So out of 32... Because I mean, when people were running the Relic Contemptor lists, no one was running a single Volcon. Most people were running double, right? I mean, my list at the moment is 2 Death Company, 2 Sandguard, Incursors, and then it was like the Attack Bikes, the Whirlwind, the Storm Speeder, and Eliminators. And then I think I also had both Servitors and Voidsmen at Arms. So like I'm relying on like strength of melee with incidental, that's the word I was looking for. Incidental shooting with 4 really powerful melee squads, then other units that can basically move around the board and control primaries and also perform actions and also get into the opponent's deployment zone. The Venator would fill the same as the attack bikes. I mean, it would and it wouldn't, right? It's got a heavy bolter and a neutron laser. I mean, it's 6 shots, whereas your attack bikes for the same amount of points will get 18 shots. And I guess attack bikes are core, so you can get Chapter Master rerolls across them. Have you tried Plasma Inceptors? Yeah, I mean, I've got Plasma Inceptors. I just hate that you can't fire them on high power without killing your own models. But, I mean, some people love Plasma Inceptors. I'm just not really a fan. I think they look cool. I'd love them to get. I mean, you guys are forgetting that each attack bike has, like, 4 bolter shots, right? Which with Chapter Master rerolls is usually incidental damage as well. A couple of wounds chipped away on top as well. Plus, I mean, if you're fighting against horde lists, 12 bolters is not bad, I guess, right? I really rate Blade of Sanguinius. I really rate Plasma Inceptors. Yeah, I think Blade of Sanguinius doesn't work for my playstyle. I guess I play Blood Angels a little bit different. Chrono Saiyan, thank you so much for becoming a member. Battle Brother. We've had so many memberships this weekend. I've lost count. Thank you for that, guys. We finally hit the September goal and then we just blasted on past it. Cool. Okay, so Terrence's list. It's been a while since I've submitted a list. This is a revamped version of my Fury of the Lost list. The first list was easy to course secondaries, but it was so squishy it couldn't hold primaries. I mean, I guess that's a problem. Adding in the Redemptors should hold down the first 2 turns while I send a Death Company unit to score. Nearly auto takes Relentless Fury of the Assault, Flex Blade of Sanguinius Assassinate, Retrieve Knack 1 data. Okay, 2 CP. We got the Chapter Master with Soul Warden, Icon of the Angel, Infernal Pistol, Relic Blade, Imperium Sword. I mean, that's a big investment. Soul Warden, Icon of Angel, and Imperium Sword. Imperium Sword and Icon of the Angel kind of feel counterproductive here. I'd probably just go Gift of Foresight if you're doing that. Because Imperium Sword is going to give you what? +1 attack, +1 strength? You're already getting to reroll the charge from Icon of the Angel, so would you not just rather reroll 1 hit, 1 wound, and 1 save? I'd probably go Gift of Foresight in that case. You've got Librarian with Veil of Time, Null Zone, and Psychic Fortress, and he's obviously got the jump pack. He has the Chief Librarian and Rites of War. Interesting. I mean, it's solid. And then this is actually a second Tech Marine list. Okay, with Master of Forge, and this is this isn't a Primaris Tech Marine. This is a Firstborn Tech Marine. What about a Nightmare Axis with Lightning Locks? I thought more Axes were Chaos Knights. And I mean, Lightning Locks are fine. The reason I dislike putting Knights into Blood Angel list probably is just the 3 CP cost. Oh, you're Dark Assassin. Okay. Thank you for becoming a member of Dark Assassin. Do appreciate it. Alright. 2 Incursor squads and Intercessors with the Stalkers. We don't often see Stalker bolt rifles, but I guess the thought behind this is probably he wants to sit them in the backfield. We've got 8 Death Company Intercessors, which we never see with Thunderhammer on the Sergeant. We've got 5 Death Company with Thunderhammers. We've got 7 Death Company with 3 Infernal Pistols and Power Swords. We've got like 9 Death Company with Infernal Pistols and Chain Swords. We've got double Redemptor with Stormbolters, Heavy Flamer, Rocket Pods, Macroplasma. I think the Heavy Flamer costs the same amount of points as the Gatling Cannon. I would just take the Gatling Cannons. Heavy Flamers are a lot crapper now. Again, it comes down to Armor of Contempt in that they're no AP into Armor of Contempt models. So if you're getting charged by anything in the Armor of Contempt, then you're not going to kill anything, or you're going to kill like one model with a Heavy Flamer. So I would take... Oh, it's +5 points for the Gatling. Did it used to be free for the Gatling? Oh, right, you would have to drop the Rocket Pods. Oh, well then maybe that's fine, I guess. I'm trying to say what would be better. 8 shots, strength 5 -1. I actually think I prefer the Gatlings over the Rocket Pods, because the Rocket Pods are like 2 shots. They're the same -1, which is arguably no AP most of the time, 2 damage. Yeah, I mean, because the Rocket Pods are swingy in terms of their D3 shots, I'd probably prefer the Gatling Cannon. My opinion. Maybe you prefer... Maybe we prefer Rocket Pods and Heavy Flamers. We got 2 squads of Last Fusel Eliminators. So what's this? This is 4 Death Company units. So he's gonna take Relentless Assault, because I guess he's throwing things forward. He's gonna take Fury of the Lost because he's got those 4 Death Company units, including a unit of Death Company Intercessors, which we never see. I guess these guys are foot slogging it, because I don't really know how else you get them across the board. You have the 1 squad of Stalkers for the backfield, the Tech Marine to keep the Redemptors healthy. I think that's the wrong choice, because I think you're going to want to Forlorn Fury this Death Company, and I think you want the Priest. Like, I think it's important to have the Priest. It makes a huge difference to this Death Company if they have the Priest. And I did this exact thing a few weeks ago. Let me just math hammer the best buffs for Death Company, because I made a presentation for this. So let me see what slide it was. having the salt doctrine. No, that's wrong. Where is it? The damage bonus for having Assault Doctrine on a Thunderhammer Death Company squad is 87%. Without Assault Doctrine, 5 Death Company with hammers into like a Leviathan, which is an Armor of Contempt unit with -1 damage. So your Thunderhammers are normally -2, so the Leviathan would save on 3s, and you're only doing 2 damage a pop. Would be 5.6. So by having Assault Doctrine, you increase the damage by 87%. So increase the squad's damage output by 87%. I mean, it'll be different against other things. Or make one of your Redemptors, which are core anyway. So you can give one of them, or you can give your Chapter Master rerolls to the Death Company. You can put them in Assault Doctrine, arguably making them super strong, and then just have your Chapter Master hang out next to both Redemptors. So they're core anyways. They're hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s. And I think your that's why I think that you probably better with the Gatling Cannon, because your Redemptors are going to just sit back. They're not going to be in range of their heavy flamers. So they're just going to sit back. They can shoot those Gatling Cannons, hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s. It's not bad at all. I do remember when you had to randomly roll to see how many Death Company you got. Yeah, I mean, that's going back a few years for sure, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I think you want the Priest. I think you lose the Tet Marine and you put the Priest in, and obviously the Priest gives you the ability to put 2 units in Assault Doctrine if that's important. This list hits a 6 every time. I like it. The 2 Eliminators and the 3 troops potentially let you do some R&D. Yeah, I think you want the Priest. I really do. The Redemptors are core, and if let's say your Redemptors on 1 wound. Can Blood Angels put heavy Thunderhammers in Scum squads? No, that's Deathwatch only, I'm afraid, Jimmy. We don't get access to heavy Thunderhammers. I think that if your Redemptor goes down to 1 wound, giving him Chapter Master rerolls, because he'd be like Weapon Skill 5 at that point, or Ballistic Skill 5, actually still makes him like a viable unit. So I think it's more important to give the Death Company that Alpha Strike potential than to give one of the Redemptors a little bit more accuracy. I was going to say, so hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s. I can do that math. So hitting on 3s is 0.66. Re-rolling 1s would be 0.166 times 0.66. So add them together. So your Redemptors are hitting 75% of the time. I guess with the Tet Marine, you can make one of them like it can increase their chance to hit by like 20% more. But the problem with the Redemptors I have is the Macroplasmas. It's swingy in terms of the number of shots. We've talked much of times that re-rolling the number of shots is like the worst thing you can do in terms of spending CP, because it's not guaranteed. It's not like a stratagem that actually does something. You're rolling a random dice and replacing the number. Yeah, so I think this list would benefit more from the Priest. I generally like other picks. The Rites of War, Infernal Pistol, Null Zone, Librarian is cool. The Chapter Master is cool. Like, I don't think you need Imperium Sword on someone that's carrying Icon of the Angel. Incursors are fine. The Death Companies with the multiple Infernal Pistols are fine. This gives multiple Forlorn Fury threats, which I like. I don't know how you deliver those Death Company Intercessors. Maybe that's a question for me. But I guess I think it was only a matter of time probably before we saw Death Company intercessors like this, because someone was going to want to build a Fury of the Lost list without using the Death Company Dreadnought and without using a Death Company character, right? Hey, congratulations for becoming a member, MB92. Enjoy. Look in the video description, join our Discord, find our members only room. You'll be very welcome in there. Rizio says I will re-roll a 1 into another 1. Yeah, that's always what happens, and that's why it's generally really bad to spend CP to re-roll the number of shots. Alright. It's like 20 to midnight. I got work in the morning, guys. That is list number 6 for today. Anyway, we have next week Andrew Westfall, Dean Radio, Gitley, LMK Trash, Mr. Smith's government class. That seems like a random name for a YouTube member, but that's his name. And Peter Kosterman. So we'll get you next week. If you have submitted a list and you're not in next week, you'll be in the week after, or you can submit a list. If you want to be in the week after, there's probably a few slots left. Submit a list on the community tab in the next couple of days, and we'll get to it for sure. Thanks for hanging out tonight, guys. I really do always appreciate you guys hanging out in the stream. Hopefully you learned something. If you learned something, click the like button. If you didn't learn something, then leave me a comment down below telling me why you didn't learn something, and that I'm an idiot. We got 5 new members in the stream tonight, and based on the fact we got like 20 new members last night, you guys rock. Thank you so much for supporting the channel and everything I do. It's super appreciated. I will be back, I think, hopefully Wednesday night against Nurgle Demons. I'll post up when I know. And then I will be back on Friday with another tactics video. I haven't got an idea for this week's tactics video yet. If I don't have an idea by this time tomorrow night, I'll be sitting down and trying to figure something out. So if someone wants to see something tactics-wise, someone wants something broken down, leave me a comment on any YouTube video, I guess, or send me a message on Discord, or leave something in the members room, and I'll see if I can make that. As I say this, my daughter is literally waking up in the other room, so I'm going to bail. Enjoy your evening, guys. I will catch you Wednesday night. Thanks again for all the support. Peace.